If you're out there farming or even just gardening, you know the weather can feel like a constant battle. But what if you could change the game by treating your soil like a bank account? In this explainer, we're going to break down nutrient budgeting. It's a really smart system that helps you stop wasting money and make sure your crops get exactly what they need right when they need it.
So just imagine a place like Florida. One minute you're dealing with a snap freeze that zaps all your new growth, and the next you're in a punishing drought. That kind of climate whiplash puts an incredible amount of stress on your plants. But you know, the real battleground, where all this chaos does the most damage, is right there under your feet, in the soil.
And all of this leads to a pretty serious question. Are your fertilizer dollars literally just washing away? I mean, when you see your crop struggling even after all that hard work, it's a huge red flag that the essential nutrients you paid good money for are leaving the field. And that costs you big time, both in your harvest and in your wallet.
So what's the move? Just dump more fertilizer on it and hope for the best? No way. It's all about being smarter, way more precise. And that's where nutrient budgeting comes in. It's a simple, logical approach to what can feel like the really complex science of soil health. So what is it really? Well, nutrient budgeting is pretty much just an accounting system for your soil. You track everything coming in, you measure what your plants are actually using, and you figure out what's getting lost along the way. The whole goal here is surgical precision, giving your crops exactly what they need and only what they need. Here's a fantastic way to think about it, and this really makes it click. Your soil is a bank account. All that fertilizer and compost, those are your deposits. When you harvest your crop, that's a withdrawal. And those nutrients that get lost to a heavy rain, those are like the hidden bank service fees that just eat away at your balance. Which makes your soil test the most important piece of the puzzle. It's your official account statement. Okay, so you're probably thinking, how do I actually build one of these budgets? Well, it all boils down to a really straightforward 4-step plan that's going to help you get your soil's finances in perfect order. Let's walk through the roadmap together.
So here it is, our 4-step roadmap. First, we start by checking our current balance. That's the soil test. Then we get super meticulous and log all of our deposits, accounting for every single nutrient input. After that, we track our withdrawals by understanding what the harvest is taking out. And finally, we plug the leaks, cutting down on those annoying hidden fees by minimizing our losses.
All right, let's dive into step 1. There's a golden rule in any kind of management, and it's this: you cannot manage what you do not measure. That's why a soil test is the single most valuable tool you have. It gives you a clear, totally honest snapshot of where you're starting from.
A standard test is going to tell you your soil's pH, which is absolutely critical. Seriously, if your pH is off, nutrients can get locked up and become totally unavailable to your plants, no matter how much you apply. The test also measures key players like phosphorus and potassium. But you might notice something's missing: nitrogen. It's a special case because it moves around so much in the soil, so it's usually estimated based on what your specific crop needs.
Okay, so you've got your starting balance in hand. Now we can move on to step 2, logging all of your deposits. And this is a big one, because it's where a lot of people get it wrong. It's about so much more than just that bag of fertilizer you bought.
You have to look at the whole picture, way beyond the fertilizer you just spread. Think about it. You've got leftover nutrients from last season. You've got the organic matter you added, like compost or manure. Cover crops, they can add a huge amount of nitrogen. And get this, even your irrigation water has nutrients in it. You got to account for all of it, because every little bit counts.
Now we're on to step 3, tracking your withdrawals. This is such a crucial step, but it often gets overlooked. Every single tomato you pick, every bale of hay you cut, it all physically removes nutrients that were once in the soil. If you don't make a plan to replace them, your soil's fertility, your bank balance, is just going to go down, down, down. And that brings us to the final and maybe most critical step: stopping those invisible service fees. Especially in sandy soils like you find all over Florida, this is the biggest challenge of all. Nutrients don't just sit still, they're always on the move, and they can be lost in ways you can't even see. So, the 2 main culprits here are leaching, that's where water just washes nutrients straight down past the roots, and surface runoff. On the left, you see the problem, but on the right you see the solution. Best practices like smart irrigation, applying fertilizer in smaller split applications, and using mulch or cover crops, they all work to fight these losses and keep those valuable nutrients right in the root zone where your plants can actually use them. Now this brings us to one of the most important points in this whole thing. You absolutely cannot separate nutrient management from water management. They are 2 sides of the exact same coin. In fact, when you're managing your water, you are managing your nutrients.
I love this quote. It just puts it perfectly. If nutrients are fuel, water is the delivery system. Think about that for a second. Your plants can't eat dry fertilizer, right? Those nutrients have to be dissolved in water so the roots can absorb them. Water is the vehicle that gets the fuel to the engine. It's that simple.
And that is why balance is everything. If you have too little water, the nutrients are just stranded, locked up in dry soil, totally useless to your plants. But if you have too much water, especially in sandy soil, you're just flushing your expensive fertilizer and your money right down the drain.
Okay, so we've covered the core ideas. We've walked through the 4 key steps, and we've talked about the critical role water plays. So now, let's pull it all together into one final actionable checklist you can start using right away.
All right, here is your game plan. First, test your soil regularly, every year or 2. Don't guess, know. Second, know exactly what your specific crops are removing when you harvest them. Third, and this is super important, split your nitrogen and potassium applications to feed plants as they grow. Next, manage your irrigation with precision. Remember to account for all your nutrient sources, not just the fertilizer. And finally, trust your local experts. Their recommendations are tailored for your exact conditions. If you follow this, you are absolutely setting yourself up for success.
You know, at the end of the day, nutrient budgeting isn't a one-and-done fix. It's really an ongoing conversation with your land. It's a continuous cycle of observing, measuring, and adjusting. So the final question is pretty simple. Your soil has a story to tell. Are you listening?